Alright, on the workbench today I'll be assembling a paint rack to hopefully clean up my desk a little bit. This is a 120 bottle paint rack by Wargame basis store, bought through Aliexpress. This is laser cut wood, and if you've never worked with these before, these little T-notches that I just pointed out are actually to put a nut in and secure it with a screw. This is a very similar method to how a lot of 3D printers are put together with acrylic. I kind of wish that this company made an acrylic version of this rack, because I'd love to have it in clear or gloss black. There are two styles across shelves, one with the T-slots and one without. You stick a nut in it sideways, put it in the slot, drop a screw through it, and tighten it up. In order to keep the rack from wobbling, you need to make sure that these screws are fairly tight, but you don't want to go overboard tightening it up, as you can very easily crack the wood. The kit includes quite a few extra shelf pieces, both styles, so should you happen to break one, you're not left SOL. The rack has 26mm holes designed to fit pretty much all the 17 and 18ml bottles from Reaper MSP like I use, Vallejo, Ammo, AK Interactive, Scale 75, Andrea, Army Painter, Secret Weapon, etc. Quite a few more companies that I can't think of. A lot of the paint manufacturers are switching to these dropper style bottles. Unfortunately, this won't help you much if you use a lot of the Citadel pots. But the same company also offers other shelving units for those style paints. There are 4 total pairs of these shelves that are secured with screws, and the shelves that go in between them will not. They'll just naturally slot in. You can glue these as you're assembling them to the sides. It's not strictly necessary, but you will end up with a overall stronger structure. If you might need to collapse it to move it in the future, I wouldn't glue them, but if you don't need to move it and you want to make it stronger, I would go ahead and put a little wood glue or some type of PVA glue. Even super glue would work just fine in here. While the sides don't need it, the center support that I'll be showing later definitely does need it. And if you wanted to keep that to where you can still break it down, you might be able to use a little bit of hot glue in there, because hot glue is fairly easy to break back off of the wood later. I'm not using any glues during assembly because I intend to break this back down and paint it later on, because I would like to put, once I've decided where all my paints are going to go in this rack, to paint underneath each section with a swatch of the paint bottle that goes in that spot. But I haven't yet decided how I'm going to sort out my somewhat large but incomplete collection of MSP's paints. Once you have one side completed, here's where things start to get a little bit fiddly. I struggle with this a little bit off camera, trying to figure out how exactly to start this, as you've got the shelves kind of flopping around a bit on you. But after playing with it a bit, I decided that the best way is to start from the bottom. Get the bottom pair screwed in, and then start dropping in your intermediate snap-in shelves, working upwards. Then secure the second row, snap the shelves in between that row, secure the third row, and so on all the way up. Keeping things aligned at this point is a little bit of a pain in the butt. You do kind of got to be a little careful not to snap your shelves off if you move it too quickly. One thing that you could do that might help a little bit is to pre-assemble these center cross shelves by taking the nut and actually hot gluing it into the center of it. Just make sure not to get any glue into the center of the threads. The laser cutting on this kit is really, really nice. These are very, very cleanly cut. The pieces key into each other with a little bit of friction. Not quite enough to, make them hold together on their own, but enough that these pieces are not going to be rattling around at all. When you're snapping in these center shelves that are not secured with screws, you can flex them a little bit to get them in here. It'll help quite a bit. Well, it's completely irrelevant if you're going to paint it. All laser cut wood parts will have a darkened edge on the edge that was cut, and in this video I'm putting that darkened edge forward on every single shelf. So if you're not going to paint it, pay attention to which side you have facing you. Otherwise you'll end up with light edged and dark edged shelves. Once you get this second row secured in, it becomes a lot more stable and you can stand it up without worrying about breaking pieces. Wargame Basis Store does make the kind of more traditional style shelves where you have stair steps up, but as many of these paints as I have, and I've added just since filming this video, between filming it and recording the audio, I've added probably another dozen paints. This more vertical, compact storage is a lot better solution for me. I don't want too much of my desk space taken up by storage systems. Especially doing filming, I need that extra depth in the desk because sometimes I gotta push stuff farther back on the desk than you would normally comfortably work at because of the depth of field of the camera. This is the center brace that I mentioned before. Should be glued in. It doesn't really stay in on its own. Hot gluing it might be a temporary solution, but rubbing a little wood glue down each side will definitely make it rigid and secure. It has a series of tabs sticking off of it running down each side, and you need the tabs to face the bottom. It takes a little bit of wiggling to get it to snap into each individual shelf. Some of the shelves will be bowing in or out, but once you get it all lined up, it makes for quite the strong little unit. From here on out, figuring out how you want to organize your paints is going to be the hardest job. You know, I enjoy painting miniatures, but I don't really consider myself an artist. I don't have a good grasp on the color wheels, so try to figure out how to organize the paints is not really a task I look forward to. In this little sped up clip, I'm just throwing all my paints in random as they came out of my previous storage case. But later on I tried to go through and organize them by rows of primary colors, organizing all my greens together, all the blues together, etc. Putting all my technicals near the top. In the coming future, I'll be doing some miniature painting on this channel, and if you're interested in that, like and subscribe, and I'll put out some videos. I'm definitely not a pro painter by any means, but I feel like I can put forward a pretty good tabletop fieldable miniature. As I'm learning and growing myself in miniature painting, I kind of like to share what I've learned and help make it a little easier for people who want to get into it, because I think a lot of people are intimidated by painting tabletop miniatures, or some of the miniature based board games now come with really detailed miniatures, and it's not actually a hard process to paint a miniature. There is basic things that you need to learn, and once you start stacking up those technique, it really doesn't take that long to start being able to paint miniatures that your fellow gamers will appreciate.